This is a special Walker Cup episode from the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. The finest amateurs from Great Britain, Ireland, and the United States will face each other on May 8th and 9th at one of the most iconic golf clubs in the world. We know the teams, but a certain mystique surrounds the venue. Seminole Golf Club. In the next few weeks, you'll hear stories from Seminole members, former Walker Cup captains, USGA officials, and other special guests. These are the Seminole Sessions, a preview to the 2021 Walker Cup match. And now, your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome again to the Seminole Sessions here at the Back of the Range, a series of preview episodes focused on the 2021 Walker Cup to be contested on May 8th and 9th at historic Seminole Golf Club. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. My guest on this episode is Bob Ford, the head golf professional at Seminole Golf Club. In this episode, we spoke about his incredible run as head professional at Oakmont and Seminole. And Bob didn't exactly spend all of his time selling merchandise in the shop and giving lessons on the range. Bob has played in 3 U.S. Opens and 10 PGA championships. In fact, he's the last club professional to make the cut at the U.S. Open, which he did in 1983 at his home course, Oakmont. We spoke a bit about Seminole, what we might need to look out for as we lead into the Walker Cup, and we shared some stories along the way. Let's get the Seminole Sessions started once more. Bob, you're at the Back of the Range. How are you?
Ben, thanks. Yeah, I love your work. I love your podcast. So I appreciate you giving me a shot at it.
Well, I think if there was a qualifier for it, you would be exempt for a lifetime, sir. So I think you're okay. But I really do appreciate you saying that and joining me here. You know, we're trying to get things ramped up and talking about the Walker Cup, and of course it's at Seminole Golf Club. You're home right now, but we're gonna pass over a lot of your achievements in the game. You've done a lot of episodes of other podcasts, and your resume is very well known. And we'll touch on it just a little bit. But you know, a rite of passage here at the Back of the Range is every guest has to share a little bit about how they actually got into the game of golf. And I was hoping you could share that with listeners for me right now.
Well, Ben, I will. You know, I followed my mother and my brother around, public golf courses, pulling her cart. She was an avid player. She wasn't a good player, but she was an avid player. And, after a while, she let me smack a couple with her clubs, and I was like 12 years old. And, right away, just fell in love with the game. From there, my brother was older than me, 7 years older, and he caddied at Overbrook in Philadelphia. And, he'd come home and tell me who he caddied for, and, some celebrities and some great players. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'd like to caddy. Yeah. So when I was 14, I started to caddy. And I ended up caddying at Aronimink when my dad joined Aronimink when I was in high school, I think probably for me and my mom, but because he wasn't an avid player either. And my brother was off to school, and so I caddied there and kind of grew up playing there through high school, and, just obviously fell in love with the game and decided at that point that I wanted to be around these people that were around golf for probably the rest of my life. So from there, my folks moved back to Pittsburgh when I graduated high school. So I did all my summers through college back in Pittsburgh where I didn't know anybody. And, I was in college in the early 70s, 71 to 75. When, smoking pot was the thing to do for everybody. And
how dare you?
I guess I was a bit of a nerd. I never wanted to do it because I think I'm probably an addictive kind of a guy. And if I did it, I probably would have done it every minute of every day. And so I stayed away from it, and I just hit golf balls after school, after my classes. And when I got back in the summers, my dad had me working in I'm not going to call it a steel mill, but he was in the steel business, and they had fabricating plants, and I worked in his plants my summers through college. And after work at 4:00, I'd go to the golf course until dark. So I really fell in love with it. The Open was at Oakmont in 73, and I had worked the Open at Marion in '71 as a volunteer. So I wrote Lou Worsham, the pro there, a letter and said I'd like to volunteer. And he actually hired me to work in the golf shop, the week before, during, and after the Open to help him out. And so that was my entree to Oakmont, my entree to Lou Worsham, and graduated college and went down to see him. He was the pro at Coal Ridge in Fort Lauderdale in the wintertime.
Sure, yeah.
And asked him what he thought I should do with my career. I obviously wanted him to tell me that I was good enough to play and go play the tour. And he said, why don't you come to Pittsburgh this summer and work for me, and I'll find out whether you're good enough. And I'm like, wow, that'd be cool. So, I kind of, as from a club professional standpoint, I kind of took that job on, number one, wanting him to tell me to go play the tour. Number two, if I failed at making the tour, I felt like at Oakmont I would, meet enough people that somebody would hire me, and golf would be an asset for me in my business career. And if I didn't make it golfing, I'd sell steel or insurance or
Sure.
Something. So it worked out a little differently for me than that, but I don't want a mulligan. That's for sure.
That's a hell of a journey and a way to, and I think everything ended up pretty much okay. You mentioned college. You went to the University of Tampa, played college golf for them, and over the last several months, you've seen a lot of these, whether they're Walker Cup hopefuls from the U.S. squad or the GB&I squad, or actually eventual members of these teams. You've seen them popping into Seminole here and there, playing practice rounds. College golf is obviously a little bit more mainstream now than it was in the 70s, thanks to the Golf Channel and to, Golf Stat and live streaming services. But what can you tell me about your college golf experience in Tampa in the 70s?
Well, it was a lot different than it is today, as you suggested. And, University of Tampa in that era did not have much of a golf team. We were focused on football, and we were quite a Division II football school, sending a lot of guys to the NFL. And, golf was, it just wasn't that important. It wasn't that important to me at the time, but, so we were pretty stinky. And, the reason why I went to Tampa, I wasn't really a very good amateur player, but I thought I'd go to a school in Florida that, was sunshine all the time, and I could work on my golf game. And, so that kind of worked. And I wanted to play on a team that I could play on and not, be the eighth man and not get to play in tournaments, because I needed the experience. So I wasn't going to go to a Florida or Georgia, or not that they would have me, but I didn't want to sit on the bench, that's for sure. So from that standpoint, it was a great experience. Like I said, I really wasn't very good, but, I guess my senior year in the Tampa Amateur, I shot 65 and lost to Gary Koch in a playoff. And believe it or not, at 14 under for 2 rounds, which was
that's brutal.
Pretty incredible. But, it's been a fascinating relationship with Gary since then. We had that common bond and what he's done with his career, and we've crossed paths many, many times. He's played in every pro member at Seminole since we started.
Sure.
So I get to see him every year, and he keeps getting to tease me about, whacking me in the playoffs. So, but that's really is what led me to go see Lou Worsham and ask him, geez, you think I'm good enough to try to play? Which, I was good enough to try, but obviously I failed. And then he retired, and I had an opportunity at 25 to stop playing and take that job, and I did. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to talk about Seminole and the Walker Cup, but you just mentioned Oakmont several times, your previous place of employment. You were there for 37 years, and so you're the head there. You're currently the head now at Seminole, and I know you did both jobs simultaneously for probably, about 10, 15 years? Was that about the right amount of the overlap? I think it was
17. Not that I'm counting.
Not that. Okay, so right around the same. But there are golf clubs and then there are country clubs. So by name, Oakmont is a country club, Seminole is a golf club, and some people may know the difference, but some probably don't think much of the difference in the naming. As someone that was a head pro under both, What are maybe some of the subtle cultural differences between Oakmont and Seminole? Because the standard golf fan really just sees Oakmont when it's on TV for a U.S. Open, or they really don't see much of Seminole on TV, and they don't really know the culture behind both. Is it possible for you to describe maybe the cultural differences between those two clubs?
Yeah, if I could, to the layman, I would say, a country club is a full service operation. At Oakmont, we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have a swimming pool. We have a swimming team. We used to have tennis and a tennis team. Now we've gotten rid of that because just kind of fell by the wayside. And we have shooting for the guys in the wintertime and paddle tennis that's popular. So, it's a full service country club. And we have housing there, for overnight guests too. So that's the best way I can describe, the difference between a country club and a golf club. The golf club, and particularly a place like Seminole, we only do lunch. We don't do breakfast. We don't do dinner. We don't have overnight accommodations. We only have golf. We close at 6:00. You must be off the property, which is unusual, but it's just golf. It's very high concentrated on just being golf centric. I haven't said that, Ben. Oakmont, because of the Opens and, the golf aptitude of the members there, and they, whether they join having that aptitude or they get educated once they do join, it's a very golf centric place as well. And, obviously the major focus is on golf, but they do offer all those other amenities.
Sure. One of your highlights, obviously, of your career was you're the last man to make the cut at a U.S. Open as a host professional of that facility. You did that in 1983, tied for 26th. I still can't fathom the idea of a host professional playing in a U.S. Open and then running out to the merchandise tent and stocking sweaters and shirts and hats, but that's exactly what you did in 83. How has the job changed over the years that, I guess, that's kind of prevented that from ever happening again? I'm guessing you have such a love of your profession. You would like to see someone do that again.
I hope it happens again.
Yeah.
It was unusual. Obviously, Ben, it was in a different era, the early 80s. And it is one of my most fond memories. I will tell you, I probably was more excited. I qualified over at Sharon Golf Center in Akron, Ohio, and about a 2-hour drive home. And I think I got home in about 30 minutes.
I was going to say, yeah.
I just couldn't have been more excited, to have done that. I did play in the Open in 1980 at Baldesroll, my first year as a head professional at Oakmont, and Bob Ross was the professional there, and he had qualified for that Open as well. So, I didn't think it was that unusual at the time. Obviously, since then, I've learned that it was quite a feat for both of us. But he was an incredible mentor to me. In 1980, we played, and then we went in the merchandise tent. I shadowed him for the week, and sadly, they sent me home for the weekend. But I went back to work. But it was an incredible experience. I don't, the hats that we wear as a golf professional, it would be shocking for somebody to do that, but I certainly hope it happens.
Yeah. Well, before we leave Pennsylvania and head back home to South Florida, I had a couple Pennsylvania boys on the podcast previously, and they've played in a couple of these Pennsylvania Opens and state amateurs, things like that. Do you know Nathan Smith or Sean Knapp by chance? Do those names ring a bell at all?
I vaguely can remember the names. They sound like a couple guys that we took down in the Palmer Cup matches. My partner and I sent them home after about 13 or 14 holes.
That's them. Well, I'm glad you recall the names, because I was given an acronym by Mr. Knapp. KOACP, he says, is what he calls you, the king of all club professionals. And I told him I would try and work that in. And man, you were perfect right there, just smacking him down a little bit. So that was right on cue, as if you're looking at my notes. I love it.
Well, those two are national USGA champions and best players to play out of Western Pennsylvania in a long time, and great guys and great fun guys. They don't take themselves too seriously. although Nap could be on the edge of that. But we've just had a ball. You know, he came home from playing in the amateur at Newport, and Tiger whacked him in the quarterfinals. And I used to watch him hit balls a lot, and came to the club and had this, some kind of writing on his golf bag. And I got over a little bit closer to it. It looked like an autograph. And I said, what do you got on your golf bag here, bro? And he said, that's Tiger Woods' autograph. I got him autographed after he beat me. And I said, are you kidding me? Did he autograph your knee pads too? Like, Jesus God.
I don't know if he did, but that's man, that's perfect. Yeah, I think I remember him saying that, and I was kind of shaking my head. I'm like, I don't know if that's probably not the best way to go. Well, that's great. So you started at Seminole in the year 2000, and as someone that's been around the game at your the highest levels, you obviously, just like you said, you'd played in 3 U.S. Opens by that time and 10 PGA championships, I believe, and I'm sure you knew the history and legacy of Seminole, and we just spoke about the differences between a country club and a golf club, and this might be like a silly question, but did you have any reservations or moments of pause about accepting the job at Seminole? I mean, did you immediately know it would be a good fit for you?
Well, I had a number of members from Oakmont take me to Seminole in the wintertime when I'd go down there to play in January and February. So I got a feel for the culture. I got to meet pretty much all the key people. And the assistant there at the time for Jerry Pittman was a young man named Andrew Shuck, who's now the head professional at Cherry Hills in Denver. And he alluded like that last winter before Jerry retired that, they're talking about bringing you down here. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Never really crossed my mind that I was being considered. And the job never opened up and I never applied for it. But, Tim Neer was the president-elect to be, and he called me and asked me if I thought Oakmont would allow me to do it. And I said, well, let me check with the boss first, my wife, Nancy.
There you go.
And she was all for it. I was surprised, but she was all for it. And she did a terrific job raising our kids and doing the 2 jobs and back and forth. And when I went to the Oakmont board, they were all for it and just incredibly supportive. Throughout my career at Oakmont, the people at Oakmont were just incredibly generous to me, and can't say enough about all of the people through the years at Oakmont. But when I got to Seminole, then I was apprehensive. Yeah. I was petrified, quite frankly, because these were the captains of industry. These were just another. They were the leaders of the free world at that time. Particularly in the Northeast, but from all over the country, really, and now from all over the world. But I stood on the first tee for probably 3 months trying to meet everybody and watch everybody hit. I was blown away at 2 things. Number one, how well they gripped the golf club and hit off the first tee. They all put the club on the ball beautifully. I was, not that they were all scratch handicappers, but even the 12 handicaps really knew how to, swing the golf club, which was encouraging to me. And the real high profile guys that I would have thought would have been difficult to deal with maybe couldn't have been nicer, and all they wanted to talk about was golf.
Right. And
at that point I knew that I could handle the job. So 3 or 4 months in, I got pretty confident and pretty calm about it, and believe me, it's I hate to even call it a job. It's just such an easy place to be.
Well, you're talking about your first experience. So my first experience on site at Seminole was really special for me, and I actually did not even hit a golf shot. So believe it or not, probably the best day I think I've ever had doing this podcast. I spent a morning with Mr. Nicholas recording an episode in his home, and then that afternoon came to Seminole and sat in the locker room and had a beer with Spider Miller and Downing Gray, of all people.
Oh, well, you didn't have just one.
Well, now we don't. Well, see, but since I get to edit the podcast after we're done, I can say, no, you're right. We did not have just one. But I was looking around and saying, okay, this day, first of all, this day is, how did this day happen? This is incredible. And just sitting there, I'm like, I'm looking at 2 Walker Cup captains, USGA champions. And for me, I was kind of blown away. And for you, well, that's kind of a common occurrence at Seminole. There are multiple Walker Cuppers and USGA champions that are around the property. And with the pro member, you have the greatest tour players in the game that stop by at least once a year. I'm sure has to be at least one time where you're kind of looking around in awe of thinking, how did I get here? How is this possible?
Well, you experienced that, which I have almost every day there. I mean, between Oakmont and Seminole, I think I've met everybody in the game. I really do. I mean, everybody that has a high position in the game has been to both of those places, and I've been lucky to be able to host them and get to know them and call them friends. And that's been just an incredible gift that I've been given by, we call it working at those two places, but
sure,
hardly a job. Yeah.
Is there one instance or any anecdote that you can think of off the top of your head that, like, I'm sure everyone's thinking about all the best players in the world right now, but is there one that you can think of where you're just like, oh my gosh, is this real?
Well, I will tell you, because I'm as old as I am, you kind of remember your early years quicker than you do your later years. But at Oakmont, when I was 19 in the 73 U.S. Open, I was behind the counter in the pro shop. It wasn't a big deal back then. And, Lou Worsham was a famous, one of those great legends of the game and U.S. Open champion himself. And, Jack Nicklaus walked in to the counter and said, "I'd like to say hi to Lou Worsham." And right behind him came Arnold. And he stood at the counter. They exchanged, niceties. And obviously they go back to the 62 Open where Jack took care of Arnold in the playoff. And but those two are in front of me. Lou comes out and they're talking like, they're great pals and old buddies. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What am I doing here?
You're just trying to not get in the way, I guess, right?
Yeah. So that moment I'll never forget.
Nice. You mentioned the level of play at Seminole. I think I have my stats kind of close, but about 200 single digit handicappers and probably about 50 that have played in a USGA championship. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's a pretty staggering number, but yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
And I guess I'm just curious, just about any other club, I guess it's pretty easy to see like a 15 and 20 handicapper struggling with their bunker play or their chipping technique, and you can walk over and lend a hand. But like you just said, you got USGA champions, you got Walker Cuppers, and I'm sure that you can offer up some wisdom that'll help their games. But what's it like trying to work with those kind of members at a club where, I mean, these are some serious accomplished players? How do you give a swing tip to someone that's playing the Masters?
Well, that's a good call. And Downing Gray was, low amateur in the Masters, in the Butler cabin with Jack and Gary Player. I think those guys were, winners and runner up at the time. And, but that, as you age, you need some help.
Sure.
And, I worked a lot with Downing Gray, and he just couldn't be a neater guy and a better gentleman and great storyteller. But his game needs a little help once in a while. And everybody likes to tinker a little with their swings and with their equipment. And, it's just fun to be part of that.
Yeah, the last time I was there, I saw Vinny Giles on the putting green with like tees set up, basically like he's doing a putting drill. And I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, why are you doing putting drills? What are you doing? And no, he's working on his game. He's tinkering.
Oh, he works hard. He's extraordinary. He's one of my idols. He's 78 years old. And I'm telling you, so I knew him when he was 68, 58, 57 or 8 years old. And he won the senior amateur when he was maybe 68 also. And just the level of game that he still has at his age is extraordinary. And he works hard at it. He's an amazing guy.
You, one of the awards I know you're proud of that you've won twice actually is the PGA Merchandiser of the Year, and you won in 85 and 97. And, I've snagged a couple things out of the pro shop at Seminole, and, I think I saw a couple guys going out of there with like multiple bags of stuff. And what's surprising, it's not a massive, as far as the size and square footage, it's not a massive shop, but every single square inch is utilized to its potential. And whenever you see someone wearing a shirt or a hat or visor that says Seminole, it immediately kind of screams, okay, this guy or this gal is connected and knows someone, and it's kind of a badge of honor to wear that, wear the Seminole brand on a shirt. And does it ever surprise you at the volume of souvenirs that some of the guests roll out of there with? I mean, at some point, it is just a shirt and a hat that's going to kind of get ratty in the closet at some point. I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, everyone's got shirts that are back in the back of the closet. But what's the biggest haul that you've seen where you're just like, look, I appreciate what you're doing. It's great that you're ringing the cash register, but are you kidding me? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, as you know, those Oakmont and Seminole, those logos are valuable, valuable to people. People love to wear them. That says I played Seminole, or I played Oakmont, or I played Augusta or Pine Valley. And like you said, it's a badge of honor, and it's a phenomenal introduction for conversation, whether you're on an airplane or wherever you are. When you see somebody that you have a connection to that club and that logo, it's a great conversation starter. And but you're right. I mean, I've got some non-member customers that get to play there, and they come in, they drop $1,000 or $2,000 like it was nothing. And I'm like, did that guy just spend what I think he spent? But you gotta forget yourself. Now you gotta buy something for your 3 sons, and you gotta buy something from your 3 not employees, but your customers, and
sure.
It adds up.
Yeah. I think I saw a guy with 2 bags, and I think one of your guys in the pro shop said that it was a $2,000 bill right there, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So the Walker Cup is heading to Seminole in May, and Seminole certainly has a mystique about it. Opened in 1930, and basically Donald Ross was able to drain a swamp right off the Atlantic Ocean and turn it into one of the best golf courses in history. And it's never hosted a professional tournament, despite obviously the pro member has a field that tournament directors would drool over. But were you ever surprised when the discussion started and was finalized that the Walker Cup would be at Seminole?
Well, surprised a little bit, but knowing Jimmy Dunn is a guy that just makes it happen.
Yeah.
He felt strongly that he felt like Seminole owed it to the amateur game and to the USGA. We had all those we have, I think, 9 Walker Cup captains, 11 former players, and 9 former PGA or USGA presidents, members at the club, plus Mike Davis is a member of the executive director. And it was a great fit. But I have to tell you, Ben, that at Oakmont, this was the 21 Walker Cup. Probably in 14 or 15, I went to the president at Oakmont, Bill Griffin at the time, and said, Bill, we ought to make a pitch for the Walker Cup. Mr. Phones really started the matches, and it's very strange that we never hosted it. It's something that on our resume that we don't have. We should host it. And so he put a letter into Mike. He was great friends with Mike. And when Mike got the invite from Jimmy to go to Seminole, he called me and he said, I don't want to put you in an uncompromising position, being that you're working at both places. Are you like okay with this? I'm like, number one, I appreciate you asking me. I got really very little skin in the game, but I love it to go either. I win both ways. So,
sure.
But Seminole is, particularly now, is a much better fit for it because it's really the only championship that it could host. I mean, it could do the Curtis Cup and the Walker Cup, and that's about it. And Oakmont is blessed with, as you know, all those championships. So I thought it was a great fit. Jimmy really felt strongly that Seminole owed it to the game, and not everybody agreed with him, but he's the chairman and he calls the shots. So we're really excited about it. The members are excited about it. We've done as a result of it, we've done a lot of work to the golf course and the clubhouse and eliminated the pool, not really because of the Walker Cup, but it's going to be a great spot for our members to hang out during the championship. And we just can't wait. It's 5 weeks away. It's 5 years in the making for us.
I can't imagine, normally when you have a membership at a club that gets a major championship or a PGA Tour event, the membership's obviously excited, but you don't see a lot of members that actually played in the tournament that's coming, and I can't imagine what guys like Downing Gray and Buddy Marucci and just Mike McCoy, they must just be over the moon with this. It just must be incredible that they have all that history playing in one, and now it's coming to their club.
Well, they're also proud, and Nathaniel Crosby, being a former player and an amateur champion and being the captain. I mean, can you imagine? He'll just be walking on clouds at that time.
There'll be tears in his eyes the whole time.
For sure. It's just going to be an incredible weekend for us. Sadly, it just goes too fast.
I know. How do you want I know, like, we're talking today on Friday, April 2nd. The reason I'm just mentioning the day is because it is down here in South Florida. It is windy and it is blowing. And I know that that's kind of what you guys wanted for that charity match with Rory and Ricky and DJ and Matt Wolf. But these are amateurs, and this is a very rare instance where amateur golf is going to be front and center on network television while there will be a PGA Tour event that weekend, it's not a major. There's really not anything that big that's going to be competing against the Walker Cup that weekend. How do you want the course to play? I mean, I know that the USGA is going to be doing a lot of the setup, but how do you want Seminole to be showcased that people can see the course, but also these amateurs can really showcase their talents as well?
Well, I'll tell you, Ben, watching these kids warm up, and I actually have gotten to play with a few of them. They're not going to have any trouble with the golf course.
Okay.
I think that we would love to have a 2-club win, which would be perfect. I think a 4-club win would be disaster.
Yeah.
I'm delighted that it's a match play golf course, and you're not going to hear any scores. You'll hear how many birdies guys have. And, the pro member this year, Freddie Couples had 8 birdies. Ernie Els had 8 birdies. We had some guys, play beautifully. So we want some good golf, as you know, because you played the other day. It's a second shot golf course. The driving zones are pretty generous, and length is never an issue anymore in today's game with these kids. And, just want it to be fair and see some good iron shots.
Yeah, absolutely. The other unique thing is that this is going to be the first time, like I said, that people are going to get a good look other than in pictures. They're going to really get to see Seminole, and there's a limited amount of tickets. The tickets sold out in 2 minutes on yesterday, which was incredible. But I think it's going to be about 2,000 spectators each day. But it kind of reminds me a little bit about what they do the last day at the Crump Cup at Pine Valley. They let the public come in for the final day and take a look at the place and see some fantastic golf. I'm sure you'll have other obligations during the Walker Cup, but if you were to lead a tour around Seminole, what are maybe some areas of the course that you would want people either that are watching it on TV or they're there in person? What are some areas that people should pay attention to?
Well, I would tell you, the greatest setting out there and place to spectate is like behind 4 green, which you're on top of the dune up there. You can see across the whole golf course. 11 green, 15 tee, back up in there where the restroom is. You just see down the golf course and see the ocean from there. And that's extraordinary. And then the ocean holes, so I would kind of hang up on the dune on the early holes, and then I'd work my way down to the ocean and watch them play the ocean holes. It's really, really gorgeous.
I know I'm definitely looking forward to being there, and I'll get you. I forgot to ask you, true or false? I'm not sure if you can answer this, but if you can, great. True or false? Jerry McElroy, Rory's father, is a member at Seminole, and obviously he's rooting for the GB&I team really hard. Do you think he's excessively helped the GB&I kids by bringing them out to Seminole multiple times to get a feel for the course, or is that pretty fair, or do you think it's getting a little excessive?
No, that's false. No, I mean, those kids didn't need Jerry to come out. They were welcome to come play anytime. We gave both teams carte blanche all year once they made the team. And but Jerry's, he's a big supporter because Rory played for the GB&I team. And I'm actually going to play with him tomorrow. I'll give him a little shout out about, all the work he's done with these kids. But no, he's the best. He's a great guy.
Well, we'll let you get out of here. I really appreciate the time, and I know I mentioned that you had retired from Oakmont, but your exit at Oakmont was during the U.S. Open, and your exit at Seminole is here at the Walker Cup. This is going to be your final year as the head professional at Seminole, and I guess a lot of retirees like to kind of pick up a little bit of a extra gig or a little summer internship or just something to keep busy. Are you still going to be the official starter at the U.S. Open?
I am. I'm looking forward to that. It's really a fun week for me, Ben. Yeah, I absolutely. Until they kick me out, I'm going to keep doing that.
What's the key to that? Because I mean, the voice. Everyone has their different style. But what's the key to kind of reducing the nerves from these guys in those like 2 or 3 minutes before their names are announced? Because everyone knows you, so I'm sure they're not ignoring you. They're coming up and saying hi. I'm sure these 2-minute conversations all day long have to be fascinating.
Well, they are, Ben. I tell you, working the tournaments at Seminole, the member tournaments, getting to visit with our members for a couple minutes during those tournaments is really something I'm going to miss because, it's a neat time. And Mike Davis asked me to do this because they were taking turns after Ron Reed did it for so many years. They were having the executive committee members take turns each year. So there was a new guy every year and guy that people weren't familiar with. And he said, I really want somebody that's going to be there that guys know. That's why I want you to do it. And I said, God, I'd love to do it. And when those guys come up, I think it's my nature, to calm them, a sense of calm because I'm not nervous. I've known them. It's kind of hey, JT, how's it going? And hopefully it calms them down. I'll tell you, my first year, this is cute, at Erin Hills.
Okay.
Actually, JT, I think it was on Saturday, he came up in some pink pants and a white shirt.
Yeah, that's the day shot 63, I think.
Yeah, with that great shot on the last hole. I think it was 5-wood or 3-wood. He's just so good. It's incredible. But I said, partner, you better play good wearing those pants.
There you go.
That kind of stuff just eases them, breaks the ice, it gets them calm. And I think that's my job, and I enjoy doing it.
Well, I'm glad you're still doing that. I do have a little bit of a bone to pick though, because, I feel, I bumped into you a couple of times at Seminole, and now we're concluding this podcast. I think, you and I we're getting closer and closer, and then you decide to retire and leave Seminole. I mean, how do you think that affects me, Bob? I mean, did you ever, don't you see how that might adversely affect me and my chances of playing Seminole in the future?
Benny, I will tell you what, I've known you well enough now. I just want you to keep checking your mailbox for the invitation letter every day.
I'll do that. And I won't get my hopes up, but Bob, I really appreciate the time and just being an incredible host of everything great about the amateur game and all the great offerings of Seminole. And I know you're very proud of the club and very proud of what's about to happen, just the pinnacle of amateur golf. So look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much for being a guest here at the back of the range. And I will see you in a few weeks, sir.
Okay, Benny. Yeah, sounds great, buddy. Thank you. Take care.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Bob Ford for joining me here at the back of the range. Don't forget, the Seminole sessions will continue, so make sure you're subscribed in Apple Podcast and Spotify. All previous episodes are available at thebackoftherange.com. We'll see you next time here at the back of the range.